This is Minda Wilson from Urgent Care, and I'm really excited today to talk to Carl David. He is an advocate for suicide prevention, an art expert extraordinaire, and a fascinating individual, and I'm excited to have him on the show. Carl, welcome.
Thank you, Minda. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I hope I live up to your accolades.
So I think your notion of giving back probably started when you were very young and you lost both your father and your brother, and that sort of gave you a different lens to look at the world through.
It did. It did give me a different lens. I was 16 when I lost my brother, who was 22, to suicide, and that just really shattered my world and made me see things completely differently once I was able to escape some of the darkness. And then losing my dad 8 years later was the second barrel of a shotgun of despair that hit our family. So yes, it did definitely wake me up to a whole new reality, which I was not expecting to see or be involved in. But there you are. Life throws things at you, and you either sink or swim.
And so when you say a whole new reality, what do you mean by that?
Well, I was thrust into a world that made me realize how fragile life is, and taking things for granted just is kind of commonplace, and it's silly, but it's not real. We got to be grateful for everything that we have every day we get up, and everyone who's in our lives, because with a slight drift of the wind and God's will, it can change on a dime. So really nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah, and we're seeing that now. I mean, people are having that common experience between the pandemic and the outrage over what's going on in our society. People are experiencing the fragility of life. So how do you help people to cope with that?
I think that we all have to be there for one another, and we have to be non-judgmental of others' situations and be supportive and as helpful as we can. I mean, it could be as simple as walking down the street and smiling at someone who may be contemplating their despair and the ending their life, and the fact that someone cared enough to smile at them might give them enough of an impetus to choose to live, not die. And I just think it's the right thing to do. It's easy to be nice, and it's just the right thing to do. And I think that if the world were kind and people were kinder to each other, we'd be living in a much better atmosphere.
So you think that so kindness is a key to treating people with respect is a key. Are there any, when you see someone who you don't know well, are there any signs or clues that you can maybe look at to see where their head's at, so you can be helpful, be assertive, give them that helping hand?
Some of those signs are obvious and some are not. In the case of my brother, we saw nothing. And still to this day, there's a question mark that is, what did we miss? What did we not see? Could we have intervened or changed something? Sure, maybe if we'd known something. But there are other people who actually will talk about taking their life or feeling terrible and dropping out of society, losing interest in their passions. And those are the things that are flags that people should be aware of. And sometimes they're spoken, sometimes they're non-vocal signs that are out there that you've got to be perceptive enough to see. And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But I've always told people, if you see something, say something. I know that sounds cliche, but it's not. It's very true. And to reach out, because the worst you can do is embarrass someone or humiliate them if they really weren't thinking about taking their life. But the best thing you could result from that is that you saved someone's life, where they saved their own life by realizing. So it's sometimes very subtle and very difficult to ascertain what's going on in someone's mind, and sometimes there is no indication of anything, as was our case. But unfortunately, because we would have certainly interceded and done something.
Yeah, of course. But there is, with people sheltering in place now, a lot of isolation, a lot of loneliness. There's a reduction in people's ability to interact with each other. So, what are some of your suggestions that people can do to help those people?
I think that if you know someone who's in that state of isolation, they've been hunkered down, they can't get out, or they choose not to because their fear factor has grown to a point where they're really afraid to get out and do something. Reach out to them, call them. If it's someone you know, call, talk, have a conversation. Make sure they know they're still connected and that you're connected to them as well, that they're not alone. And we are still connected. And if you can't get out and see family members or see friends, which was the case for a lot of us, there's the phone, there's Skype, there's Zoom, there's the internet. There's all these different ways of connecting, even though you can't do it sometimes physically in person, because that will change. I mean, we'll get back to a place where we can do that, even if it's with caution.
And if you do experience a loss, like I feel like everybody feels like they've experienced a loss recently. So what do you think, what are the things that you can do to help people get to the other side of going through the pain of that loss?
Going through the pain of loss of suicide, or just being separated?
Or suicide, or a death in the family, or a death of someone you know, or an untimely death. I mean...
Okay. I think it goes back to the same thing. I think people need to be surrounded with people. I know that after we went through our deaths in our family, it was great having other family around and friends who came and were there for comfort. That ends after a week or 2 weeks. People start to fade back and go into their own lives, and you need to adapt to that. But, I would counsel people who are friends with someone who's experienced loss or family members to definitely stay in touch. I think that personal touch of a phone call or showing up to say, hey, let's have a cup of coffee together. Let's go out and get a drink. Let's do lunch, something, or let's just hang out is critically important. I think people need people, because in the case of a suicide, which is an unusual death, it's bigger than all of us, and it's not something that one can go through and win their way back to life on their own. It's really, really difficult. We were fortunate not just to have family and friends around, but to have different types of therapy, which really helped us get back to life as best we could. It's not something you ever get over. You only learn to live with it as best you can. And Those are things that become coping tools that you learn.
I think a lot of people are taking the death of Trayvon Martin very personally. And I think it's very difficult for them. And I think so bringing people together and coping tools, how would you suggest they use some of the ideas you had to sort of process his death?
Well, I think that one of the things that needs to be done when there's a loss like that, and if it's an unacceptable loss, as they all are, that people need to honor the memory of that person. And instead of using violence, I think that they need to celebrate that person's life and remember them and laud their achievements and just keep it on a positive note, because expressing the anger through violence does nothing but destroy the ethic of that person and their legend and their memory. I think that's terrible. I think I think we all need to be positive. Yes, we all need to go through a mourning process and a grieving process, and that's healthy, because you can't shut your emotions out. The emotional body runs the physical body, and one way or another, if you don't acknowledge it, it will make you acknowledge it. I know from personal experience, after losing my brother, I created this scenario in my mind that he must have been on a special ops mission in Vietnam, because this was in the 60s. It was just about that time, and because I really couldn't cope with it. And this was before I got professional help, but it got to a point where I was experiencing physical symptoms that would manifest from the emotional blockages. And I realized at that point in time, my parents, that I needed help. And the psychiatric help that I got saved my life. I went through a psychoanalysis. It took, 4 years, 4 days a week or 5 days a week, and it really saved my life. So these are things that people need to do. They need to get help, and whether it's clergy, whether it's a medical intervention, whether it's being surrounded by family all the time and talking. Talking is really important. The communication aspect of this thing is critical. You can't keep this inside you. It needs to come out, needs to be shared, and you need to gain perspective with other people's insights. We're not alone in this. I mean, if you talk to anybody, they'll say, yes, I'm one of my friends took his life. One of my family members took their life. I thought about it for a while. You hear all of these different things. I didn't personally. I'm just saying some people will say they had those thoughts, and there's an unwanted club that we all belong to once we've experienced something like this. But we're here and we've got to deal with it. And this is one of the things that through communication, kindness, education, and awareness that we can help thwart this horrible act back to a point. It'll never disappear, unfortunately, but we can reduce the impact and the instance of, well, maybe not the impact, but the instance and the occurrences.
And how does art fit into this? Because art is a source of joy and expression for many people.
It is. I mean, I've been in the art business my whole life. We are now in our fourth generation in our business, dealing in American and European 17th through 21st century paintings, drawings, watercolors, and occasional sculpture. But these are objects of beauty. And when you look at a painting and it transports you into another life, another time. It can be tranquil, it can be beautiful, it can be meditative, it can be all those things. And everybody reacts differently to different kinds of art. What is appealing to one person may be repugnant to another, or have no emotional attachment whatsoever. But art is a venue toward enhancing your environment and making you feel good.
And so bringing beautiful things into your life can also help you cope with loss. Is that your experience?
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, why wouldn't someone want to surround themselves with beautiful things on their walls to make their home more, just more feel good in the atmosphere in your house. I mean, and it doesn't have to be it can be a photograph, it can be a poster, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be a painting. But art forms are myriad in the way they manifest. I mean, it could be a sculpture, it could be a piece of quartz. I personally collect quartz and things like that. I've got hundreds of pieces of it. And I love the energy that it gives off. It just makes me feel good to have it around me. And there's something nice about that.
And making art as well also is an outlet for people.
It is, absolutely. I never thought when I was in high school that I'd become a writer. And I've got 3 books that have been published, and I'm working on a few others and lots of articles. And I mean, I couldn't put a composition together to save my life. But now I've got this, I guess it's a passion for writing and expressing myself. And people tell me I'm a great writer. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'm all right. I don't look at it as that. Other people do. But I do enjoy it. And it's an outlet, and it lets you, again, it's another escape. It's one of those things.
In times of social unrest, art has been a really important communicator. It's been a really important way of bringing people together.
Totally. I mean, there and different art forms as well. Same thing. I mean, it does bring people together. It's just something beautiful that can be shared.
So in addition to communicating and bringing people together, and then bringing beauty into your life, and then looking at an outlet for yourself that may be artistic in some way, writing, drawing, painting, what are some of the other things that you think people can do to help cope with loss?
I think that getting out into the open, going for a walk by a river or in the mountains or in a tropical area, things like that where you're at one with nature, really make you feel good and really make you feel like you're part of the planet, part of the universe. I am a very spiritual person, and I love being in the midst of, the mountains with the fresh air, or with palm trees and the sun and the wafting of the waves on the beach. Those are all things that really make you feel good. And those are real works of art. I mean, our planet is filled with beautiful things like that. And they're there for us to enjoy and to make you feel good. Just the smell of the sea air and the waves crashing against the shoreline. Those are just something that they make you feel really special. Excuse me. If I'm out on a boat and just the feel of the water and the splashing and the sound of the water and the birds and everything, it's just, there's something really magical about it.
Were you always interested in airplanes?
Yes. My father was a pilot as well as an art dealer. And from the time I was 6 years old, I was flying with him. And the passion for me with airplanes and boats and cars has been forever. But there's a special closeness to airplanes because of the fact that my father and I flew together. And the last place I saw him was at Bader Field in Atlantic City before he left for a business trip over to Europe with my mom. So there's a very special passion for me with flying and airplanes. Am I a pilot? No. Can I fly? Yes. Did I get my license? No. I thought I would, but my wife, who's extremely intuitive and psychic, said to me, "Don't go back and do this. You'll die in a crash. It's not your fate." So I did, because of going against her tuition a couple times, and have paid for it.
It's hard to be married to somebody who knows all and sees all.
Well, it's true. It's a blessing. As guys, we have to learn to listen a little better.
So, but that's influenced your writing, like your interest in airplanes and your interest in family. It's really affected the stories you choose and the topics you decide to write about. I mean, your book about your father and your brother is moving.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's interwoven. It's kind of it's a nonfiction family saga that reads like fiction. And I'm trying to get a film made because one of the goals I have in my life is to have this as a visual medium where it will have a real positive effect on people. And, being a suicide prevention advocate, I feel that if one person chooses not to take their life, then I've done a really good thing. And I may never know, and I don't need to know. I didn't do it for that reason. I don't need the kudos for doing something like that. It would just make me feel really good if this book and my interviews and all those things and ultimately a film would have such a positive impact that it would save lives. I kind of feel like Schindler. I wish I could have saved one more. And I think that gets to me because that's what it's all about.
And so this notion of giving back is another way for people to get outside themselves. Maybe doing something for someone else might turn things around for them.
Exactly. It benefits everybody else, and it benefits you by being nice and kind. And, I've always lived my life with the concept of paying it forward. Well before the movie came out years ago with Helen Hunt, which was a great movie. And it was very powerful. And I've lived my life that way and continue to, because if you do 3 things as you pay it forward for 3 different people, that creates such a ripple on the pond of life that it keeps going and it multiplies geometrically. And that's just such a great thing. If everybody would do that, just do even one nice thing for somebody else, and then they take with the concept of like, I'm going to do this for you, but this is what I want you to do for somebody else. And what a great place the world would be if people would just do that, for no other reason other than being kind, not for anything in return.
If you're taking yourself outside yourself and you're feeling sad, alone, isolated, it takes your focus away from you, puts it on somebody else, and then you see the happiness you bring or the benefit you've given, and it makes you feel, it gives you a positive feeling.
It does. It comes back to you. I mean, how good does it feel to do something nice for somebody else? And, it rebounds. It does come back to you. And just, you're right. If someone's feeling kind of low or sad or whatever, and they do something nice for somebody else, and they see that benefit for that person, they see that smile, they see that hope that you've given them, that has to make you feel good and take the focus off yourself.
So, if you are going to give people advice who during this time where people are isolated because of COVID, death of George Floyd, and other victims of racism have made people feel vulnerable and angry, and what's the best way that you can see people sort of trying to deal with those feelings and come to terms with what's going on around them?
Oh, it's a complicated issue to say the least, but my philosophy is life is a gift. Every day you get up is a gift, and it's a blessing, because a lot of people don't get that. And we need to live on for those people, including George Floyd. We need to celebrate his life, and we need to remember him and, the kind, wonderful person that he was. I didn't know him, but I know about him. And these are the things that, it's an obligation for us now to move forward in a better way and learn something from this, and, not focus on the imported rioters who are causing all this havoc and looting and stealing and whatever, because that's not what we're about as Americans. And I think as people, we just need to focus on the positive. We need to reach out to other people and share good feelings and goodness and life, love, and kindness, because that's the most powerful force in the world, and nothing can take that away from us if we don't let it get hijacked.
And on that note, if people want to reach out to you, learn more about your books, learn more about your gallery, what's the best way for them to contact you?
I'm out there all over the place, apparently. The book is called Baderfield, How My Family Survived Suicide. It will be back up on Amazon and about 60 different digital venues around the world. I had to take possession from the publisher, so that I became the publisher, and there was a transition period of about a month. But it'll be up. Ingram Spark is the central clearinghouse for them, and that'll be up. My email is carledavid@gmail.com. It's Carl with a C, and the middle initial is E. If you forget that, some other guy gets my emails and he gets really upset. But I am reachable, and if anybody needs an ear to listen or some help or guidance or whatever, whether it's suicide prevention, if it's art, if it's anything, I'm always happy to listen and to help. It's just my way of paying forward in life.
Carl, it's been a great pleasure to meet you and have you on the show. Appreciate your time. This is Minda Wilson for Urgent Care.